Please listen to the disclaimer at the end of this podcast.
Hello and good afternoon from sunny Puerto Rico at the NA International Symposium. My name's Gerson Guzman. I am your host today for NA Cafecito, Our Stories. I'm joined today by Joe Acevedo of BlackRock. This podcast, for those of you who have had a chance to look at a prior episode, is all about hearing the stories, the personal journeys, the professional journeys of members of the NA community. My day job is as a founding partner at Saba Capital Partners, a lower middle market private equity firm. But my part-time job today is hosting this podcast and getting to know a few of the guests that are attending the symposium. So, Joe, I think this one's a little bit unfair because you and I have known each other a long time. In fact, I was trying to figure out how I first met you. I think you showed up to speak to Hispanic MBA students at Wharton. That's probably the first time I met you. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background and your personal story?
Sure, absolutely. It's great to be here. It's great to be back in Puerto Rico. All of my family is from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, in the northwest of the island. I am a New Yorican, so I grew up in Queens, New York. So our family went from Puerto Rico to Brooklyn to Queens to Long Island. So I spent a lot of time coming here as a kid. Have been fortunate enough to come back from time to time for work. And we even set up a company here some years back. So it's always a delight to be back here.
Let's go back. I know, again, back to when I think I first met you, you might have been at Univision. Like, walk us through your professional journey, pre and post business school, and how you ended up at BlackRock.
Sure. So, my path really was education. My family, I was the first in my family to go to college. My grandfather had a 7th grade education. My parents had a high school diplomas. And so, education was really the path. I studied government in college thinking I might want to be a lawyer. When I realized what lawyers do, I changed my mind and decided I'm fine working alongside of lawyers, but I wanted to try my hand at business. And so I started earlier in my career with Merrill Lynch. I was doing public finance, so investment banking for government municipalities. It was a great way to learn financial modeling, and soon realized at that level I wasn't going to be hobnobbing with government officials. So then tried my hand at equity research in Latin America, which was...
You didn't think about running for public office?
Not yet. No, not at that point. And it was, helped a lot to really learn the equity side of the business, to do projections and valuations, and at a young age to meet with management teams and really kind of understand how to do due diligence and ask, management questions. And so it also gave me an opportunity to travel in the region. So spent a lot of time in Mexico and Brazil during that time. And covered various industries, so steel and mining, and then covered telecom and media. So it was through covering media companies like Televisa that after business school I actually wound up going into media on the business side. I joined Univision and worked with them doing business development for a number of years, rotating through different groups. And that was a great experience and great preparation for what I wound up doing later in my career, because it was the first time that I call it getting out from behind the spreadsheet and really, being on the other side of the table.
Making that leap from just being an analyst to like being out in front.
Yeah, having responsibility for P&L, really understanding, being in a company that makes and creates and does something, and really understand, from...
Your bankers don't make and do something?
Sure.
Don't mean to put you on the spot there.
Well, what I'll say is, it gives you an appreciation for, you can't change a cell in a spreadsheet and say, well, we'll fix this cost problem by just not giving compensation increases to the employee.
F2 times 0.9. Yeah.
Right. So it really makes you kind of think about what it is that you're doing in a spreadsheet. And that was a great learning lesson for me.
So how the transition to going on the buy side happen? Because there's a journey there as well.
Right, absolutely. Well, for me, that happened when Univision was acquired by a private equity consortium. And so this was in 2006, so nearly 20 years ago. And at that point, this was one of the kind of golden ages for private equity, and you could see, some of the biggest buyouts of all time were happening at that time. And so, what I said to myself was, that seems to be where the power dynamic is. These are firms that are going in and taking ownership and going on the board of directors and are really able to navigate these companies from a high level and really have a lot of influence over the direction of the company. So that was really attractive and appealing to me at that time. At that point, I had had 5 years of experience on Wall Street, had an MBA, and had a few years of corporate experience, but I didn't have any private equity experience. And I was fortunate enough for a firm called Pharos Capital to take a chance on me and invite me to join their investment team out of Dallas.
Okay. Which, as a guy who grew up in California, I'll say Tex-Mex is not quite Mexican food, and you weren't getting good Puerto Rican food there either. So
it was definitely a cultural adjustment, being from New York and California to be in Texas. And I went thinking maybe I'll do this for a few years, and I was actually in Texas for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
It was another great learning experience.
I remember. So, all right. So you ultimately left Pharos and launched your own private equity firm before moving on to what you're doing now. Just, round out the story.
Yeah. So I really learned the ropes at Pharos, and it was a great opportunity to learn how to source deals, how to do proper due diligence, how to execute on those deals, and then, to sit on the board and to add value and take an investment, from beginning to exit and monetization. So that was an invaluable experience there. And after doing that for over 10 years, we were crazy enough to say, maybe this is something that we could try ourselves. And so I partnered with a couple of gentlemen, one of whom is another New America Alliance member. And we tried our hand at raising some capital, primarily from family offices. We raised a small committed fund of about $50 million and set about investing in lower middle market companies. Both of us had done a lot of investing in healthcare. And so we spent a lot of our focus on the healthcare sector. And that was another great experience in terms of trying to raise money, being told no many times.
I know that well.
And, I think it's just part of the experience of this business that we're in. But it was also a great experience, us being able to sit in a room and decide, with some level of autonomy, what we want to invest in. And really for the first time, I think it was, really gives you a sense for the fiduciary responsibility that you have to your clients, to your limited partners, to your investors, because, your own dollars are in there, but you also, it's very painful to lose dollars for your investors, and you do everything that you can to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. So you made the transition to BlackRock a few years back. How long have you been at BlackRock?
So I joined in 2021, right when BlackRock launched its Impact Opportunities Fund, which is a unique fund that was designed to invest in undercapitalized groups. This was really something that I've been doing my whole career. Prior to that, we weren't calling it impact at the time. It was really just a function of the relationships that we had, the people that were in our network.
That's how we source, right?
And exactly. So, so it was really sort of a natural progression. It was really doing what I had already been doing for most of my career, but with the benefit of a large brand name and resources and capital and team behind us. And so, so that was a smooth transition in that sense. And this fund has also been focused primarily on private equity and also private credit, real estate, and infrastructure, investing in particular in themes such as healthcare, education, financial inclusion, affordable housing, and digital connectivity. So it's been a real great experience also to be able to invest in things that we're very passionate about.
Let's bring it back to the personal. I know some of this stuff, but I think people get a kick out of this. Tell the world something they don't know about you. That's unique to the Joe Acevedo story.
Sure. Well, you won't see this generally in my bio, so only people that know me know this. But I have 12-year-old triplets, and so that certainly is something that I forget the odds of that happening, but I basically have a better chance of winning the Powerball than that.
You've been defying odds your entire life, so you're perfectly suited for that.
So yeah, it was it was quite a surprise.
Are they
We
identical?
learned that we have two identical girls and a boy.
All right.
And it's been a real treat, to be able to have lived through this experience. And so
I look, they're 12. I'm sure they can keep each other company. I can't even imagine what that first year was like, managing 3 infants.
right. Well,
I'm on the one and done program, by the way. So
I think back to my grandparents. We had like a dozen siblings, and I feel like if they were able to get through that, I should be able to.
they staged them though, man. They staged them. You
Well, right.
decided to,
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
You can't help it.
Awesome. Now, I have to disclose something to the audience. I consider Joe a member of my kitchen cabinet. Someone I go to for advice. You were there when I was making my own entrepreneurial decisions. So looking back at your successful career, what advice would you give to a mid-level asset manager professional who's thinking about launching a firm on their own or down the road doing something like that? Because you've lived it and you've seen other members like myself, take the leap. So
Sure.
what's the advice you give them?
Sure. So, I mean, some people would say I was crazy to do it when I did it. I think I had 4-year-old triplets at the time. And so, I think everyone is always asking themselves, what's the right time in terms of financial stability? It takes a long time to raise a fund. It's a big financial sacrifice. And then on top of that, we joke that you actually have to pay to work there because you're also making, in many cases, significant contributions in terms of your GP commitment. And so,
If the audience starts seeing me shake, it's because I'm living this. But please,
right,
continue.
I'm not trying to trigger you here, but you really need to have been through the life cycle of some investments. I think hopping around to work in different places and only getting kind of that front end of the experience probably isn't going to work. I think LPs want to see that you were there beginning, middle, and end, and that you have exits that you can point and show for it in the track record. And then I think today, I recently saw something that there's more private equity firms than McDonald's in the United States. It is something insane. And
Wonderful. You really are going to trigger me right now.
you really have to focus on what is your differentiation, right? What is your reason for being, right?
Are you
Because
playing a Big Mac or a quarter pounder?
yeah, I think there's a lot of smart people out there that are doing it, and we're so focused on what it is that we're doing that we sometimes lose sight that there's a lot of other groups that are out there, that are offering services that might be equally compelling. So you really need to think about what it is that differentiate you, your team, and your strategy.
Talk to me about a book or a podcast that you've read recently or listened to recently, and what you've learned from it.
Sure. One of my favorite books is a book called The Other Wes Moore, and it was written by, he's now the current governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, but he wrote this book years ago talking about growing up in Baltimore and how he once met another person named Wes Moore whose life took a very different track. So from the same neighborhood, this person wound up going to prison, and he really reflects on the small changes and adjustments that you can do in your life to wind up on a very different path. And, having been the first person in my family to go to college, having grown up in Queens, I early on, I kind of went outside of the pack. And
we have friends that probably were the other Wes Moore, right?
Yeah. And, I went a different direction. I went to a scholarship school in Manhattan, and so was one of my only friends really that, left Queens to go to high school. And that started my journey of really just being open to different experiences, even if that sometimes meant kind of moving away from the pack and going in other directions where, because it would have been maybe more comfortable to stay doing what it is that I was doing. And, these are kind of little moves here and there along the journey. And it's only when you kind of look back years later that you see kind of, how navigating it that way, what that wound up, what the outcome was for that. But that book really kind of made it stark, I think, for me. And you've seen all of the success that Wes Moore had. He, was a Rhodes Scholar, and he's, risen to very high levels of government. His name has been thrown around as a potential presidential candidate. And so, that was a real unique way, I think, of putting someone's life in perspective.
Hey, Joe, thank you for joining us. I know you're down here in Puerto Rico and you've got a day job to do as well, so your time is valuable, but we appreciate you sharing your story. And with that, we will conclude this episode of NA Cafecito, Our Stories, with Joe Acevedo of BlackRock. Definitely encourage all our viewers and listeners to follow the program, and hopefully one day we'll have you on the couch. Hasta luego.
This podcast should not be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced in whole or in part. The information contained in this podcast does not constitute a recommendation from the New America Alliance, the host, or guests to any listener. The terms NAA or New American Alliance may refer to any one or more entities associated with the NAA. Neither the NAA, host, or guests, nor any of their respective affiliates or employers make any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information contained in this podcast.